today we are going to be, once again, not quite discussing programming specifically, but we're going to be discussing the impacts of programming and things that can happen as a result of the work that we do as software engineers. So we're talking about the ethical issues around data collection today. Super fun. So, as we have talked about previously, computers are all around us. Computers are growing to be an increasingly necessary part of our everyday lives. And on a daily basis, we as people are making more data than we ever have. Data is just any kind of information about things that are happening in the real world. So if you go to the gas station and make a purchase, that is going to make some kind of data. If you browse the web, that is making data. Anything you do is going to make data. And this new influx of huge amounts of data is creating challenges around protecting and securing that data for individual users, for larger companies, for banks, startups, doctors. Everyone who makes data needs to have their data be private and secure. So it's very important that we work very closely with making sure security and privacy are in place in this digital age. So let's discuss what security and privacy actually are. According to the Oxford English Dictionary of Law, the word privacy is the right to be free from unwarranted intrusion and to keep certain matters from public view. So just essentially having things that are not publicly available, having things that only you are aware of. You're being private. And security is the state of being free from danger or threat. It is the feeling that we have when we don't have to worry about being threatened by harm from others or anything in the world around us. So we want to ensure that at least certain parts of users' data and are kept private, and that all those things are secure, that they're not in danger of being read by other people or threatened in any way. So, a person's digital footprint is the information about the person that is going to exist on the internet as a result of what they are doing online. Like I was saying earlier, anything you do online is going to increase your digital footprint. Things like sending emails, leaving comments on videos or images or posts or anything, posting a picture yourself, searching for something on Google, or using any kind of app, you're having data collected about you. You're generating your digital footprint. This is you're leaving your mark on the world as having done something. Yeah, anytime you use the internet whatsoever, you are building your digital footprint. And even anytime you just use a device, data about who you are, what you're doing, might be being collected. So just something to keep in mind while we are discussing data. Now, a lot of people think that hackers are going to just kind of hack them and steal their data. Now, this does happen. There are data breaches that occur. The data is stolen in this way. But a lot of data breaches actually happen when people give away their data without thinking about it. So it's very important that we as people on the internet are careful and careful with our personal data, being sure that we know how we're using it, where we're sharing it, making sure that we know what's going on with our data so that we're not oversharing, so that people who shouldn't have access to it don't get access to it. So here are a few quick tips to maintain your digital footprint and protect your digital data. First and foremost, using privacy settings on apps and websites to limit your exposure. If you can set the most strict security settings or privacy settings, I know in Windows the default settings are like, share all of my information with Microsoft so that they can market to me and share it with other people. as soon as I get a new computer, I always go in and set all of those things to no, please don't collect or please don't share my data. I would like to be as private with my information as I can. So anytime you go to a new service or have a new device, make sure you're setting those privacy settings to not share your data if you don't want it to be shared. If people are tagging you in social media or if you're posting things on social media, then don't let yourself have like questionable things posted on social media. Like if you're, I mean, generally try to avoid doing questionable things in the first place because obviously you don't want to be doing that. But don't let people post compromising things about you online, or if they do, ask them to remove it or something. If you have an old social media account that you're not using, might as well just delete it. If you're not using it anyway, it's better to not have that digital presence exist. You can Google yourself to see what other people might find if they search for you. I think the first thing that comes up when I search my name is like a chemistry professor at Berkeley or something. So I am not the first result. My wife, however, is in fact the first result when you Google her name. So, because her name is pretty unique, and our last name now is fairly distinct. So she's the only person, pretty much, in the world who has her name. Where my name is a little bit more common. So, seeing what kind of things might appear when you are Googled. Something very important that you can do is use strong passwords and use different passwords for different accounts. So if you make your passwords hard to guess and don't use the same one for all your different sites, this is going to be a super big factor in protecting your own data. Because even if one of these sites gets hacked, if you have your Twitter password and your Instagram password are different, if Twitter gets hacked and your information gets leaked, then the hacker who gained that information won't be able to use that same knowledge to get into your other accounts. If you have a distinct password for every different account, then if one is compromised, the others won't also be compromised. The internet has lots of protocols to ensure that you are browsing safely and securely. And websites that have a secure connection are marked with that HTTPS. The S stands for secure here. So generally you're going to want to avoid websites that just are HTTP because that's not going to give you a secure connection. And the security there is just making sure that all of the transactions in between you and the server hosting that website are encrypted, and so anyone who tries to intercept that won't be able to read it, even if they do happen to read the messages you're sending. Making sure that your webcam and microphone on your devices aren't on at suspicious times. I know lots of people have the little stickers that they'll put over their webcam to prevent anyone from accessing it at a time when it shouldn't be accessed. I probably should have one of those on my computer, but I don't. There's even more. You should be aware of anytime you're sharing your location with people. If your phone has that setting, maybe it's good for your parents or your friends to know where you are at any given time, but maybe it shouldn't be completely public information. When you sign up for a service, reading privacy policies. I know I very rarely actually read privacy policies. I just scroll to the bottom and say, I accept. But who knows what you could be signing away when you do that. So taking a little bit of time, being careful and reading that can ensure that you know what exactly is being signed away. Avoiding phishing attempts. Phishing is when a hacker tries to get you to divulge personal information by posing as something they're not. This is Nigerian prince kind of scams where they try to get you to give their social security number or bank account information. Anytime you log into a public computer, usually best to log out after you're done. Make sure that you haven't saved any password or anything. And last, if you think your personal data has been compromised in any way, contact someone in authority, someone who either your parent or your guardian, someone who owns the site or app, or maybe a school IT person. I don't know. Someone who has the chance to potentially help you figure out what's going on with your own data. So there's a whole bunch of tips on how to improve your internet security. Brief rundown of how the internet actually works. Basically, all information on the internet is in binary because that is how computers think, that is how computers communicate. So all information is sent through the internet using a very strict set of rules and regulations that are called protocols. And they have all computers are going to follow this set of rules. So all of the computers know how to communicate with each other. The internet is a system that relies on these little snips of digital information called packets. So anytime your computer wants to send a message to a server or another computer or anything, it's going to break that message into small chunks and send them across the internet where they're going to all be received on the other end and pieced back together. And the reason that both computers know how to do this is they're all following the exact same set of protocols. They all know this is how to create these packets, and the other computer knows this is how those packets were made, and this is how I can reassemble them. Anytime the lights turn out now, I'm going to be spoofed about the lights, spoofed at the power. So packets on the internet are going to contain both the data being transmitted and information about who it's coming from, where it's going to, which packet number this is, how many total packets there will be, all this kind of extra information about the data being sent. So if you'd like to get a longer rundown of how the internet works, all that fun stuff, you take the AP Computer Science Principles class, where we have a whole unit on how the internet works. Fun stuff. Now, the internet has had a huge impact on society at large. Who is calling me? No one. Cool. My computer is still ringing. Whatever. So the internet has had a huge impact on all of society as we know it. It has enabled huge amounts of collaboration and communication. No matter where two people are, they can talk to each other and work together to solve some common goal. The internet has enabled a huge amount of dissemination of information. People can look up research papers on scientific websites and gain all kinds of incredible information that until the advent of the internet was not publicly available. So lots and lots of information has been made available because of the internet that was never available before. Things like crowdsourcing are possible with the internet. People can come together to contribute funds to an idea they think is cool, or they can even contribute their own personal time, or they can contribute computing time to different projects to further their goal. Now, there are, in addition to all these positives, there are some potential negatives that are raised by the advent of the internet. There are lots of legal and ethical concerns about anonymity and censorship on the internet. How anonymous should any given internet user be? If someone is completely anonymous, then they can't be discriminated against for who or what they are online. But without any sort of connection to your real life, you can be whoever you want. You can be as mean as you want on the internet with no repercussions. There's not any negative downsides to cyberbullying. This is a huge issue with online anonymity. And censorship is a huge question of who gets to choose what is put on the internet. If some content is illegal in a specific country, does that country get to choose whether their citizens get to see it on Google when it gets searched? So does the government get to choose? Does Google get to choose? Who gets to be in charge of what information is surfaced, what information is available to different people. And as we talked about earlier, the internet opens up huge concerns about privacy and security. There's all kinds of different ways that your personal information could be leaked or sent to people who aren't supposed to have it. So those are both very important things to be considering with the internet. Now, what are a programmer's responsibilities when it comes to securing data and keeping it private for others? Earlier in the lesson, we discussed what privacy and security are in more general terms. Let's talk about data privacy and data security. Data privacy is defined as the appropriate use of data. When companies and merchants and other entities use the data or the information that has been provided or entrusted to them, it should be used according to how is agreed to be used, according usually to that privacy agreement that you would sign when you start using some service. So if they break that contract, obviously they're going to be in trouble. And data security is commonly referred to as confidentiality, availability, and integrity of data. In other words, it is all the practices and processes that are in place to make sure our data isn't being accessed by unauthorized individuals or parties, making sure that people who aren't supposed to get our data don't get our data. Bumps on the ceiling. Data security ensures that the data is accurate and reliable and is available when people who have access need to access it. So we want to make sure that people who are supposed to have access can get access easily, and people who aren't supposed to have access can't. And there is an entire field in computer science that is related to this idea of keeping data private and secure, called cyber security. Security for the cyber world for computers. So CodeHS actually has a course for 6th to 12th grade students called Introduction to Cybersecurity that you can check out if you like. Reach out to me and I will I can add you to a section, I suppose. Cybersecurity and the programming related to it is a very good, very lucrative career, and it's a great way to protect people and organizations. There's all kinds of new jobs always emerging in cybersecurity, and tends to pay fairly well. In 2017, median pay for information security jobs was about $95,000, which is a pretty penny. That's a very high-paying job. Most of these jobs are going to require some kind of a bachelor's degree. Usually you'd have to study cybersecurity, study network security, all that kind of stuff in school. I know at the school that I went to, that was one of the branches in the computer science path that you could take. But sometimes you don't need a degree. Sometimes all you need is some kind of experience with doing cybersecurity. And this sector, cybersecurity, is expected to increase dramatically, which is like up by 28%, which is way faster than the average job sector, where growth is only about 7% for all other occupations. So cybersecurity is a hugely growing field because as the world gets more and more digital, we need to make sure our data is good and secure. Now, remember, I think 2 units ago, we talked about ethics and the code of ethics that the ACM, the Association of Computing Machinery, holds computing professionals to. We are to contribute to society and to human well-being, acknowledging that all people are stakeholders in computing. We are to avoid harm. We are to be honest and trustworthy. We are to be fair and take action not to discriminate. We're to respect the work required to produce new ideas, inventions, creative works, and computing artifacts. We're to respect privacy, and we are to honor confidentiality. So, no matter what we choose to do with our computer science knowledge, we're called to a higher standard. We are called to do good with what we know. So, there's our lesson for today.